Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today you're going to get this peachy coral look for our 2 palettes, 1 look series that I do on my channel. Today we are putting together a peachy coral battle off, if you will, of the Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes and the Colourpop Dream Street palette. Now obviously at first glance you may think these palettes don't have so much in common and would think, well, obviously I need both of them. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, maybe you already have these 2 in the collection. I did not realize how similar these palettes were until I started putting them to the test. Now obviously this one's a matte palette, this one has shimmers, this one has blues, this one doesn't. There are some pros and cons, but I'm going to show you how I created this look, 1 palette on one side, 1 palette on the other side, and how you can basically get the same look, 2 different palettes. Now, some of the things that I kind of wanted to let you know, I think this series is important because we have a tendency to buy palettes. We see a very specific palette and we think, ooh, I have to have it. But we often forget what we already have in our collection, colors that we already have. And if you're like me, a lot of times we're drawn to the exact same colors. And I feel like we look at a palette and we think, I want to make a look with that. But we kind of forget that some of our palettes are going to give us those same looks, but we're looking at them from a different angle. This is a great way if you have one of these palettes and maybe use different colors in them. This might also be a good way for you to look at those palettes and say, hey, I can do something new with that. If you only have one of these palettes and you're thinking, oh, I need these colors for this or that, and potentially it's going to be a color that I use, it may stop you from buying it because you might also already have it in your collection. So I hope you enjoy. On top of it, all the products that I'm currently wearing on my face, other than these 2 palettes, will be listed down in the description box below. So please go down and check that if you have any other questions about the products that I'm wearing today. I hope you enjoy this video, and let's go ahead and get started. So I have both my palettes here. I've got you zoomed in. I have brushes. I'm going to decide which brushes I want for both palettes. I'm going to pull out some of them now. For example, I have 2 of the same Wet n Wild brushes like this, so I'm going to use 1 for each palette. I'm going to pick some other brushes that are very similar, so that way I have them. That way each palette does have its own brush and there's not any mixing. Before we go ahead and get started with the colors, I am going to prime my eyes and set them. So I'm using the Ulta Beauty Matte Eye Primer. I'm just going to go ahead and put some of this on. I just dab it on my finger and then just do them both simultaneously. This completely freaks you out. You may want to turn away. Alright, and then the Dream Street palette doesn't have like a matte white shade, but the Too Faced one does, but I don't want to intermix the formulas, so I'm not going to use this one to set my eyeshadow, even though when I use that palette I do. So I'm going to go in with this Smashbox Cali Contour Face palette, and I'm going to use the matte shade in there to set my eyes. And I'm going to set them both with the same shade on both sides, and that way. So I went ahead and set both my eyes, and now we're going to go ahead and dip into the palettes. So I have both of them right here, and again, we're just using the matte shades in the Dream Street palette. I'm going to go ahead and then sit them down. I'm kind of terrible about remembering the names in the Dream Street palette because the names aren't on the front of the packaging, which I do really like that they did that with the Zodiac, but I wish they would kind of go back and refix that with the Dream Street palette. Make my life a lot easier. Alright, so I'm going to start with the Too Faced one on this side, and I'm going to take the shade Peach Tea, and I'm just going to blend that just above my crease, just as kind of a transition-y shade. Again, I have hooded eyes, so to take the color up a little bit more just helps it pop a little bit more, and I'm just going to run a little bit more of that through there. Okay. Next, I'm going to use the exact same Wet n Wild brush because I do have two of them. And I'm going to go into this Dream Street color, which I believe is Twinkle. Alright, I am going to use the mirror from the Too Faced palette just to kind of look to see if they're even. So if you see me holding it up, it's not that I'm using that palette, it's just that I can't really, the Dream Street palette doesn't have a mirror, so. Okay. So now that I kind of did that transition shade, I'm going to go into okay, so now that I just did the transition, I am going to go into the Too Faced Peach palette, and I'm going to use Peach Cobbler to just kind of deepen up the crease a bit. So I'm going to use the same brush I used before and just dip it into Peach Cobbler. And then mostly just take this on the outer corner. And then just a little bit, about halfway through my crease, and just kind of slightly smear it in the middle, but I don't take it like a ton of product all the way in there. I want most of the color to be here on the edge, and then just kind of slowly just bringing a lightness to the inside. It's gonna look a little bit more like that. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and take the Dream Street palette, and I'm going to use the shade Potion in this one. And again, I do the Too Faced mirror, so I'm going to be holding that up while I do this. And again, same thing, I'm just going to put this in the outer corner and just kind of gently take it at least halfway to start, and then just slowly take the like almost empty brush to the inner corner. Then I'm going to go back into Peach Tea with the Too Faced side, and I did just switch brushes. Blend that up. Okay. So now I want to deepen the edge just a little bit, and so I'm going to get a much smaller brush to do that. Alright, so I'm going to take these two brushes. This is the double-ended one from the Anastasia palette, and then this is a Glamour Doll brush. I'm going to use the Anastasia one for the Too Faced palette and the Glamour Dolls for the Dream Street palette. So now I'm going to dip into Peach Tart, which is this like brown shade. And we are just going to focus that on the very outer corner and slightly onto the base. So I don't really want to drag this across the crease. I just want to kind of hit up that brow bone and blend it in. But then because I don't want to lose that peachy look, I'm going to go back into Peach Cobbler and I'm going to top it. So that way it has a little bit more of that peachy brown shade. Alright, and then I'm also going to take that and try to really focus it on the outer part of my lid with Peach Cobbler. Okay. And then next I'm going to take, which one is this? Elfish, I believe? Yeah, Elfish, which is this like brownie purple shade in the Dream Street palette. And I'm going to pick up my Too Faced mirror again. Again, I'm just going to focus this right here on the outer corner. And really just on that lid. Alright, and then I'm going to go back into Potion. And just because I, again, want to just really re-heighten that peachy, orangey shade. Alright. So this is kind of what we're looking with, so you can kind of see the comparison. I feel like my lighting on my phone today is very weird. Alright, so the next thing is I kind of want to do the lid area. So I'm going to grab like a flatter brush. These aren't exact, but I am going to take the flatter side of the Urban Decay brush. I don't remember which palette I got this out of. I think it's from Naked Heat. And then I have this Luxie brush that's like double-ended that has a flatter side. So I'm going to use these two. This one's a little fluffier, but it will work. I'm going to use this one for the Too Faced side and this one for the Dream Street palette. So for the Too Faced side, I want to give a little bit more peach and a little bit more lightness to the lid. So I'm going to go in here with Peaches and Cream and just pick that up and really just try to focus it on that inner corner. And just pack it on as best I can. Just to kind of lighten the whole thing up. Alright, and then because otherwise it's going to look a little bit different, I'm going to go back into Peach Cobbler. And just kind of take that as a mixture in the middle and then along that crease where they met. Now, I'm also going to mix Peach Cobbler and Peach Tart and just kind of go very gently into that outer corner. So you're going to get a look that looks like this. And then I'm going to go back into my fluffy brush and I'm just going to blend. Oh no! So now I've got basically the top of this. I am just going to go in with a clean fluffy brush and just kind of blend everything together. I'm just going to take my finger into Peaches and Cream and just go as close to the lash line and inner corner as I can. We'll do the underneath part in a minute, but I just want to kind of do the exact same thing on the Dream Street side, which is this shade here. And again, just kind of do the same thing. Put that on the inner corner. And then just drag it across. I'm going to use my Too Faced palette because it's a light shade and I can't see. Alright, and then I'm going to go into, again, Potions just to kind of deepen up where they meet on the edge, because otherwise it does kind of, and then just kind of run it through the crease. And then I'm going to take a little bit of that Elfish shade mixed with Potions just for the inner corner. Outer corner. Okay, now I'm going to take a big fluffy clean brush. So this one is my Sigma brush, I believe. Yes, my Sigma E40, and I'm just going to blend it out. Now I feel like I didn't take the transition shade as high. So for this case, I'm going to go back in with my fluffy brush and back in with Shooting Star and put that up here. Or Twinkle. Just like that. Okay. And then blend it out. Alright. So that is going to be the top part. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom. I'm also going to grab a beauty blender. So I'm going to just clean up this outer corner before I start doing my lower lash line. So I just kind of take a beauty blender and just wipe it off. Because I did already do the rest of my face makeup. Please ignore the chin. Alright, so now for my lower lash line, since I use the Anastasia brush with the Too Faced palette, I'm just going to use the other end of it for my lower lash line on that side. And I'm just going to take a very tiny little bit of Peach Tart and just put it as close to the corner as I can. And then blend it a little bit down, but mostly just focusing it on that corner. Okay, and then I'm going to go into Peach Cobbler and run that more along the bottom lash line. It's kind of over everything. Okay, and then I'm going to take Peach Tea, which is that light brownie peach shade, and just run that a little bit lower underneath. And then actually what I'm going to do is take that Peaches and Cream matte shade and put that in the inner corner instead of using like a sparkly highlight. Alright, so I do still need the mirror for this. Alright, for the Dream Street palette, I'm going to use this Dose of Colors ones. It's not as fluffy as the other one, but I don't really have anything that fluffy for my under eye region. And again, I'm just going to take a little bit of Elfish, just very carefully, mostly focused on that outer corner. I'm going to put that palette in my lap. Alright, and then I'm going to take Potion again and just kind of, again, just run it more along that edge. I'm going to go back in a little bit more of Elfish because I feel like because this brush is smaller, I just did not pick up as much. There we go. And a little bit back more in with Potion. Even though that's much darker than the one in the Too Faced palette. Alright, and then I'm going to go back into Twinkle. Just run lower on the lash line and kind of blend everything together. I feel like I got way darker on this side, which I did, so now I have to even it out. I'll go back into my Too Faced palette. Back into Peach Tart. You obviously don't need to take this extreme, but you know, when you already go that direction, you can't go back. Alright, so now that I fixed this one, I made it even, I'm going to go back into Twinkle, no, Stardust in this one, and do the inner corner on the other side, on the Dream Street palette side. Alright, so that's gonna look like this. I don't know how well you can see all of that because I am filming it at kind of a weird time in the day. Now what I'm going to do is put on liner and mascara, and I will be right back. Alright, so this is the finished look. We've got Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes on this side, Colourpop's Dream Street palette on this side. I've got liner, not lashes, mascara on, as well as my lip product. So looking pretty good. Ironically, I'm also wearing the Too Faced Peachy collection lipstick in Sure Thing, which I actually really like this color. It's a little too pale for me, so I usually have to line it a little bit, but Overall, I really don't think you can tell a difference between these two palettes, but I'm going to go ahead and swatch the colors for you so that way you can actually see the differences between the two. So I'm going to zoom you out a little bit and we'll go ahead and swatch those. So I'm going to go ahead and swatch the two palettes side by side with the colors I use so you can kind of see a comparison, and then I'll let you know my thoughts on both palettes. There are some shade differences, but once you go ahead and blend out a lot of these shades from a distance, I mean even up close, it's very hard to tell which side is which. So alright, so I'm going to go ahead and swatch the Just Peachy Mattes palette first, and I'm going to leave spaces, and I will show you what then these look like side by side. So first we're going to get into the Peach Tea, and we're just going to swatch that for you. And then next I have Peaches and Cream, which we will swatch a little further down. Okay, and then we have Peach Cobbler. So really for this look, I only used 4 shades, and I actually really like this look. And when I do more in the summer, I'm going to do a second coat of Peach Cobbler just because I'm swatching with my pinky, and you never quite pick up as much color with your pinky. At least my pinky doesn't. And then my last one is going to be Peach Tart, which is like the brown shade in the palette. So those are going to be the ones from the Just Peachy Matte palette that we use. This swatch is horrible, so I do apologize. Alright, so now let's go ahead and swatch the Colourpop shadows next to it so you can see it. So the first one we have is Twinkle. Which is going to be like there, that we can kind of see the side-by-side comparison. Next, we're going to have Stardust, which is going to be here. I feel like I didn't really grab a whole lot with this one. Okay. Next, we're going to use Potions, which I'm going to swatch this one with my pinky too, but I'm not making any great. This one is way more pigmented than the one in the Too Faced palette. And then I'm also going to do Elfish, which we will swatch right here. Alright, so these are all the colors swatched together. So the Colourpop is going to be on top, Too Faced, so Colourpop, Too Faced, Colourpop, Too Faced, and so forth. Now, here's my differences in these two formulas. I like them both. I did buy, I think I bought them fairly about the same time. I love peachy coral shades. I love them in the summer. Love them with white t-shirts and like jeans for like a very pop of color. I also really like pairing them with like navy tops. So like I have a navy, just cute little short sleeve lace top that I wear in the summer. Really like doing more of a coral peachy look with it. Now, personally, I didn't buy this palette just for the coral peachy shades. Typically when I use this, I don't just use the matte shades. Sometimes I do, but if I'm gonna do this look, a lot of times I go for this because I have it. If I didn't have these two palettes, I really think preference is going to be on what you like. If you only use matte shades, you're probably going to want to go with this one. If you want some other options, some glitters, some blue looks, some blue peachy looks, this one's probably going to be more your route. This one's obviously way cheaper than this one. When it comes to the lighter shades, I feel like the Too Faced one is more pigmented. However, I feel like the darker shades in this one are more pigmented. So they're kind of pros and cons to both. I feel like they both blend really well. I really like the wear time on this one. I will say some of the shades in this palette are, to me, a little drier than some of them. And this is why I think that their light shades are much more pigmented, because I feel like once they start getting darker, they do start get to a little bit drier and they lose some of that creaminess. But again, I use both of these palettes. I do love both of these palettes. However, if you don't have both of these, or if you only have one, you can create a lot of the same looks that are in this palette, if this is the one you have, and vice versa. You can create some of the looks that are in this palette with this one. And one of the shades that I did not use, that I also feel like is a shade dupe, and I just don't use that shade very often, is going to be the brighter shade in both these palettes. In the Dream Street one, it is going to be the shade Spark. In the Too Faced one, it's going to be the shade Peach Punch, and I'll also swatch both of those for you so you can see how similar they are. So we're going to do those on my hand. So that's the Dream Street palette. This is going to be the Too Faced palette. The Too Faced one is not as pigmented. The Colourpop one has more of like a deeper, I don't know, like a reddish tinge to it. But I will say when I've blended these out, they kind of blend out about the same. You know, you can definitely use them both and get a very similar look with those as well. They're just not shades I use very often because they're so punchy. But if that's something you really liked in one of these palettes, like if you really like that color in the Dream Street palette, but you don't like sparkly shades or you don't like the blues, then I would say pick this one up because it does have all those things that you would use in there. However, if you like that shade in Too Faced, but you want shimmers and you like blues, then I would pick this one up. However, this also shows you that, honestly, there's so many palettes out there that you can do very similar looks with. And I feel like a lot of times we look at palettes and we get drawn to certain things in there. And then we get them home and we kind of just do whatever look that we envisioned with that palette every single. We kind of get a look that we're going with the palette, and then we see a new palette and kind of forget what similar shades there are. So then we're like, oh, I need that new palette. We don't always need the new palettes. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is my 2 palettes 1 look video where it just kind of shows you that a lot of our palettes can give you the same look and you don't need to spend your money on all the new things that are coming out. So take a look at your palettes and see what kind of looks can you create with both of your palettes. And I hope to see you again next time.